Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming into another video. All right, so I'm trying to figure out if I want to do this video in the house or out the house. Got a little bit of a headache. I think it has something to do with the sake I drank last night. I don't drink at all, so for me to have taken 3 shots of sake, great sake, by the way, but I just think that was probably a mistake. But yeah, did all my laundry, and I wanted to talk about all the stuff that's going around the NBA right now. And I hate wearing this hoodie in the house. But yeah, the situation is this, you guys. People are starting to set prices on the stuff that they want to trade. And some of those prices are more reasonable than others, and I'm just gonna say it like that. Some of the prices are crazy, to be honest with you. But you know, the first price tag that I think, the one that I think is most reasonable that I've heard, is actually probably going to surprise some people. The most reasonable one for me is the 2 picks for Cam Johnson. And the reason why I say that's most reasonable, because it fits what I think he's actually doing in the NBA right now, which is raising his trade value dramatically. He's raising his trade value. He's playing great ball, you know, and he fits a need of a lot of teams. And so while it's not something that I want to do for my team, with the Lakers only having 2 picks to trade, I'm out. But as far as me being a team like OKC, or a team like whoever has the picks to do it, if I had like 7 picks hanging around and I have a good team, I think he could be a welcome addition to any situation. Golden State, they would love to have a Cam Johnson. Phoenix Suns probably love to have him back, although they don't have a pick anywhere. But you look at teams that have championship aspirations or playoff aspirations, who have picks to trade from like 2029, 2028. They may be willing to make a trade like that. They may be. Obviously, the Lakers would love to have this piece, and we do have 2 picks. But like I said, I just don't think that's the right decision for the LA Lakers, based on our circumstances and being pick poor. But there are teams out there who are not pick poor. And I think Cam Johnson has raised his value to where if you're the Nets, you can demand that. You can demand him to get some sort of first-round picks, 2 or maybe even a 3rd. Although I don't think he's playing 3 picks great, but 2 picks, highly protected or something like that. That should be doable. Excuse me. So that's something I want to say. The next thing, we'll stay with the Nets. They said Dorian Finney-Smith at 1 pick. Nah. You know, there's another one of those situations where if I'm just pick rich, if I'm a team like the Thunder, maybe I would consider something like that. But if I'm the Thunder, I value young players, so I know better than to do something like that. And I think that's the kind of the issue there. If you find a team that has the type of pick cachet to be able to frivolously throw one at you for Dorian Finney-Smith, chances are they have no interest in Dorian Finney-Smith. That's the truth. He's an older guy. Father Time is starting to wear down on him, it seems. So why, if I'm a team that values young players, can't even speak, values young players to the extent to where I have enough of them to be able to throw one of them at you for Dorian Finney-Smith, then chances are I don't value Dorian at all, because I wouldn't be pick rich if I did stuff like that. And a team that has just a very decent amount of picks probably shouldn't be considering doing something like that. You're not pick rich enough to throw one of them at Dorian Finney-Smith. So the price is going to have to come down on Dorian, man. I'm not giving up anything young for Dorian Finney-Smith, especially with the landscape of the NBA being the way that it is, with all these older guys not playing up to their value all over the league. It's never been more clear to me that that's probably something that shouldn't be done. And that's really what it is. Dorian Finney-Smith is just not worth anything in regards to the first round, in my opinion. He's not. That price must come down. So, yeah, those are the 2 things that I heard in regards to the Nets. I'm pretty sure there are other players like Schroeder or somebody like that. Some of their older guys should be on the market, but I haven't heard anything about the price tag on a guy like Schroeder, so I can't speak to that. Look at the Portland Trailblazers. They look ridiculous. I don't know what the hell they're thinking in the presence of all of what we just said. Now they're talking about they want 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant. No. Jeremy Grant's not even having that type of season. His contract is terrible. No one is interested in giving away 2 future young star level potential starter players that come in the form of whatever they would choose in the first round of random year ahead for Jeremy Grant's awful contract. You're not going to find anybody stupid enough to do that, Portland. You got to bring the price down out of the first round. Your contract there is bad. If he were on a really nice contract, then maybe you could squeeze a first round into the conversation. But to say you want a first round pick plus another first round pick, yeah, you wildin', man. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to match salaries for this guy at what is it, almost $40 million a year, whatever it is you gave him, I'm going to have to also give you some talent to go with it. You're going to be getting a starter or some high-level bench player that's making too much money in order for me to match salaries with you on that piece. I don't care to do that if I'm any of the teams that come to mind. I don't need Jeremy Grant that bad. If I'm the Lakers, I'm definitely not giving you the 2 picks, the only 2 picks I have for him. When he's at, like I said, he's not even having no outstanding season like Johnson is in Brooklyn. He's having an okay season. He's missing games. Stats are exactly what I thought they would be, just kind of average. Portland's a terrible team. It's not like he's lifting them to any type of success, though I don't imagine they want any. But still, it's not like Brooklyn's situation where the players are playing too good. They need to hurry up and get them out of here so that they can tank properly. No, this is a bad Portland team with a bad contract attached to an average player, and they talking about they want 2 first-round picks. You may find a patsy to be stupid enough to do that, but it ain't going to be anybody who follows me. It ain't going to be anybody that knows what the hell they're doing. So yeah, that's not real, man. Portland's going to have to come down on that price quite a bit if they want that thing off their books. If they're not serious about moving it, then I don't see any harm in putting the price tag too high for him. You know what I mean? You don't want to move him, you're not going to move him. So it's going to take 6 picks to get him. Yeah, in other words, we're not trading him. Fine. But in my mind, that's basically what they're signaling, that they're not serious. Who else? Who's some other names too? Chicago is having a fire sale on all of their bad contracts. We made a whole video about that. I laughed at them. They wanted to move Patrick Williams after just signing him to a 5-year deal like 5 minutes ago. They're laughable. But the price tags on what they have, I think the Vucevic price tag is 2 second-round picks. I mean, I think that's probably fair. If I just, he's having a good season. He looks like he's going to continue to play well for whatever situation he goes into. He's a center, which holds a lot of value with teams that need centers. His contract isn't great, so the 2 second-round picks are, kind of, depending on what's coming Chicago's way in the form of a contract, might be a little sketchy. He's worth 2 second-round picks and a regular guy, you know what I mean? Like a regular role player. But the problem is his contract's not going to do that. His contract, like, for example, if the Lakers are going to do it, you got to give him D'Lo, you got to give him Rui. And I'm taking back Vucevic's contract that's not so hot. I'm not so thrilled about giving you 2 second-round picks. I think that might be a little steep. But if I'm giving you trash in the form of matching contracts, Gabe Vincent, whatever the hell else I would consider trash, for example, then yeah, we could definitely give you 2 second-round picks and be on your way. You know what I mean? We can get Vucevic from you and upgrade our talent situation. So that's really what it comes down to. It depends on the salary match. If the salary match is going to be like for the Lakers situation, Rui and D'Lo, then no, I'm not giving them that. I'm not making that trade at all, to be honest with you. I'm good on that trade. So it just depends on who they can find to get it done. So those are just a few of the names that I heard in regards to contracts that could be on the move. Of course, with Zach LaVine, he's always on the move. At any time they can move on from that contract, they would be thrilled to do that. And I hear Lonzo Ball is Philadelphia showing interest in Lonzo Ball. I don't know why. No. Philly has so many injury issues. They got two mainstay guards that they're probably going to keep for the next 10 years if they have any damn sense whatsoever in Maxey and McCain. You could use a backup point guard, but not one that's going to be hurt all the time. Now, the one reason why it may make sense for them to be interested in getting in Lonzo Ball is because of the $20 million that ultimately he's going to be providing them and expiring. So for that reason, totally different conversation. Totally different conversation. And it makes a lot of sense if they're trying to find expiring contracts because they need flexibility with their cap. I hear that there were some rumblings that the Philadelphia 76ers fan base was trying to urge the Sixers to potentially take on the Ben Simmons contract, $40 million expiring from the Nets. I think that makes a lot of sense for that reason. Expiring, that much money coming off their books could be fantastic. Them being able to swap one of those contracts for Ben Simmons expiring may make sense for them. Paul George, if the Nets would be willing to take Paul George for Ben Simmons right now, I wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger on that. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I would not hesitate. Hear me clearly, people. I wouldn't hesitate. If they want to take on 4 years of Paul George overpaid and washed and give me broken down Ben Simmons for just another, 3/4 of a season, I would do that, and I'd probably give him second round picks for that trouble. That's how real that is. I'd get off that Paul George contract right away. If not Paul George, then what else can they move? Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, get all of that out of Philadelphia at once. I would be thrilled if I'm Daryl Morey to get rid of any of these people, any of them, any of those names. I don't know that Philly's really doing that though, because Philly is a little weird about how they operate, it seems. Even putting those people on the contracts that they did in and of itself was strange. So I don't know that Daryl Morey is really the guy for the job. I think they should fire Daryl personally, but that's a whole nother story. Joel Embiid, man, I wouldn't be surprised to see Joel Embiid traded, man. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that it may be a little more difficult to see a trade like that be done, but is it time for him to move on from Philadelphia? They did just sign him to an extension of $195 million. I guess the presence of them being investigated prompted them to release a statement saying that they found that there was some optimism that they could manage Joel Embiid's knee injury if they just do certain types of rest patterns and certain types of exercises that could promote health within his knee. Or healing was the word they used, promote healing within his knee. And they proceeded to sign him to a $194 million contract with that information in their mind. I don't understand why anyone would do that. I would have been happy to move on from Joel once it became clear to me that his knee could potentially be something that could be a problem for a long time. And that's really what it comes down to. His knees could probably be a problem for them. And that contract, that extension is going to be a problem too. So far be it from me to think it makes sense to sell low on an MVP that just won MVP 2 years ago. I think you can probably play up his value from here. You get him on the court, have him have some 35-point games, get in a little better shape over the next couple of weeks. But by the trade deadline, it's risky because he could be hurt by then. He could be out for the season with the knee. But if you can get him to looking like himself a little better, get him back ramped up as they've been talking about, butter him up and then ship him out. I would try to get him looking his best and then get him the hell out of Philadelphia by the trade deadline. I'd move him, man. I'd move him. I might even move him to Brooklyn for that $40 million Ben Simmons, to be honest with you. I'm sure you could probably get better than that, but I don't think there's any reason for the Philadelphia 76ers to go forward with what they have. They're so eccentric in regards to everything has to resolve around Joel Embiid going for 35 points every night for them to be successful. And if he's going to have a degenerative knee, he's already 30 years of age, not particularly great shape. I don't know. I don't know if it isn't in their best interest to just move on, man. Just move on and start over with a younger timeline. Take some of them picks if you can. I don't know if anybody in their right mind would trade multiple picks for Joel Embiid at this point. But, you get a big old massive trade going for... I don't want to do something stupid as I'm sitting here trying to figure out solutions, but salary match and picks. Salary would likely be something that you wouldn't necessarily want. But just the same, it would make it so that maybe because of it you're getting back first rounders, which is ultimately what makes your rebuild possible. So I don't know if it really makes sense to do what I was initially thinking, but moving him for Jeremy Grant and picks, moving him for Zach LaVine and picks, and whatever else salary matches. But that I don't know that you're gonna get that much better for a rundown Joel. To be honest with you, I don't know. One would think the guy just won MVP a couple years ago, so obviously he would be a hot commodity for certain teams. But when you start looking around at who would be willing to give up a first round pick, people were paying attention. Multiple first round picks. I don't know that you're just gonna get some super haul for this guy. I don't think so. But it's one of those situations where if he returns to who he was, let's say a year from now down the road, he returns back into being Joel that we know, and his knee doesn't have a problem, and he's so skilled that he can move the needle on any franchise he goes to with as good as he actually is. But the concern is that he's never going to be that again. The concern is he's never going to play back-to-backs again. The concern is he's going to likely retire early. And given the fact that he's 30, this might be his last contract. So you're hesitant to move him in any situation. A team like the Pelicans could be interesting. Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum type deal. That's interesting to me. But I don't really know, man. I don't know. Brandon Ingram. I see the Pelicans as a team that could be in the mix for any of these names that we've been talking about, because they have the contracts that someone would want, and they got that Brandon Ingram situation where he's gonna have to be paid, and he doesn't necessarily fit their plans in New Orleans. So, with them having small forwards in other areas that could step up and be starters, removing him from the equation could make sense. And then obviously they only have one center on their roster, the guy they just drafted, so obviously Joel would slip in and just be that person. Problem is, if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, you have so many issues with Zion's health. Why would the hell would you take on Joel? Why would that be your replacement for Zion? But as far as them being on the move to make a move like that, big names could fly when you consider Zion Williamson could potentially be on the block. If you're the Philadelphia 76ers, do you bring back Zion Williamson when you had the issues that you've had with Joel? Well, the thing about Zion is he's young, so if your intention is to tank, you probably don't want Zion. But at the same time, if you want to bring in young players, his timeline fits Maxey and McCain so much more than Joel at 30 years of age. So that's kind of along the lines of I'm thinking there, but not something that's going to blow your socks off, really. So, always look at a team like the Golden State Warriors for a guy like Joel, because they always want to win a championship, and they're not really that close to winning a championship. But they do have some pieces that may be enticing for a team like Philadelphia who wants to start over. The young guys in Philly, we know who they are. You package a few of them together. Maybe you can match salaries for Joel. With Wiggins, Kuminga wants to be paid all this damn money. I would move on from Kuminga with post haste if I'm Golden State, before paying him $200 million or whatever the hell he wants. I would never even consider giving Kuminga that. So I would always be willing to move him to Philadelphia and something like that. So this is me coming up with this. I ain't heard a single rumor of any kind in that regard. But when I think about the places that Joel can go, Golden State really does pop up rather quickly. He really does. So, yeah, man, I don't know. Joel, you would think there would be plenty of suitors, even to take a chance sort of run down Joel Embiid, teams that might not be that far away. The question is, do you want what those teams are going to be offering in terms of salary matches? Because you know they're not going to want to send you any picks. A team like Minnesota, if I could swap Rudy Gobert for Joel Embiid, I'd do that in a heartbeat. If you're the Philadelphia 76ers, would you do that? Of course not. You see what I'm saying? So it's like DeAndre Ayton, even though they don't necessarily need to bring in a center in Portland, anybody who wants to take Ayton should probably be willing, the Portland Trailblazers should be likely willing to move on from Ayton for any reason they can. You know what I mean? So they're just the type of things just like brainstorming. I haven't heard necessarily that Ayton's on the move, but Klingen's in place. Ayton should be on the move. Portland is bad, and they got a bad contract there in Ayton, and there's absolutely no reason to hold on to it, in my opinion. Just like the Jeremy Grant contract is awful, so is the Ayton contract. They're both pretty pitiful contracts. So, yeah, man, it's just a lot going on there that I just look at and I say, in this apron era, though it may be time to move on from all of these people, I think it's less likely that anything gets moved than it's ever been, because of how hard it is to pull things off, because some of the teams that will be willing to do certain things are going to be confined by the aprons. Bucks literally can't aggregate any salaries together, so they have to make individual trades for each and every person they want to trade. Just crazy stuff like that. That just makes it impossible to really move, man. Makes it impossible to move. So that's really what it comes down to. I always wonder about a team like San Antonio, who's showing that they're on the verge of being a team that can make the playoffs. But they may be like a piece or two away. They might be a Cam Johnson away. They might be a Jeremy Grant away. And they got the picks to do it. I wouldn't toy around with Wemby at the center position as far as like bringing another center in to mess with him. I wouldn't. He's shown himself to be plenty capable of doing all things necessary at that center spot. I don't think you need a center. Or maybe a backup, but that would only be because you want to upgrade from what you already have. But with Sochan having the finger injury but coming back to a season where he's having a career year, I just don't know. At the beginning of the year, I would have said, let's move on from Sochan. I didn't like how that looked last year, but the way he's playing this year, I'm not as quick to move him anymore. And he should be back any day now from that finger injury. He's back this week or something like that. So maybe I consider, trying to ask for Sochan if I'm the San Antonio, if I'm a team trying to make a trade with the San Antonio Spurs, but I don't think they're gonna move him at this point. But yeah, like I personally think that when you start talking about Joel Embiid just doubling back, I also think that the interesting place for Joel could potentially be Atlanta. Atlanta's another one of those teams on the verge of being better. They could, if they had the best version of Joel Embiid, that could be life-changing for their franchise. And they're sitting on Clint Capella's trash contract. I'm sure they got a couple picks, including the Laker pick. You take that Laker pick, you give them Clint Capella, you give them DeAndre Hunter. Philly may be inclined to give you Joel Embiid. It may not be the greatest return, but it is a low ball return that might be realistic. Philly probably ain't gonna like that. I wouldn't like that. But that Laker pick could look great in a couple of years. That kind of thing. So maybe you ask the Hawks for more draft compensation on top of that. Obviously, you're going to ask for a lot for Joel Embiid, but like I said, I just don't think. I think it's very realistic that you can ask for a DeAndre Hunter and a Clint Capella and a Laker first and maybe some seconds for Joel Embiid. I don't know if the salaries even match, but in my head they do, because they're both bad contracts, expensive as hell. So, like, that's the type of crap that you're going to be getting back, Philly, for Joel, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to get nothing great, man. I don't think you're getting nothing great. Um, Another name I would pay attention to, and like I said, they can't aggregate salary, but like if there's a way to move Dame Lillard for like an expiring Ben Simmons, I would love to do that if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, because they have got to get out from under those damn aprons, man. They got to do that. That should be more valuable to them than anything else. Period. And that Dame contract is what's really hurting everything. And I know the Bucks have been winning lately, but that's fool's gold. Doc Rivers ain't about to do nothing with them. We know that. I know that. So while Dame's value is starting to increase, he's starting to play well. The team's starting to play better. Now's the time to start pulling the trigger on getting some of the stuff off your team. And if you can get $40 million expiring, that's exactly what you need if you're the Philadelphia 70s. I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks. And like I said, they're one of the most constricted. Is that the right word? Restricted is the word. Teams in this apron situation. They literally can't. They have the worst restrictions possible. They can barely make any moves at all, and that's why I would do everything I can, if within my control, to send one of those contracts, Dame's contract, out to try to get that expiring Ben Simmons. I just think that makes sense. And the Nets, you got Dennis Schroeder. I moved Dennis Schroeder for a different position. Maybe trade Dennis Schroeder for a first rounder if you can get that for him. At this point, you may be able to. Although I don't know what the market looks like for him. Just in general, he's playing up to about first round pick value, in my opinion. But I'm definitely not slapping him next to Dame Lillard when I'm trying to tank. And maybe you don't do any of this if you're trying to tank if you're the Brooklyn Nets. But maybe you don't want to tank anymore if you can get Dame Lillard. You see what I'm saying? A lot of things can shift your situation if you're the Brooklyn Nets, since they have both win now and tank talent. You know what I mean? They got picks. I don't know what the Nets want to do. It seemed that they turned a corner to wanting to tank, and this season is the year to do so. They got a lot of picks from the New York Knicks, so maybe Dame Lillard would be the last thing on their mind. But Joe Tsai in the recent past has shown that he wants to win. When he made the KD trade and those other trades, he didn't want any picks back because he wants to win. So if I can shift him into a win-now situation, would that be something that would entice him away from wanting to tank? Or has he found wisdom in the idea that tanking is the only way to go? I don't know. They got a lot of win-now guys, but I'm sure they're trying to move all of them. But would he jump at the idea of taking on a guy like Dame Lillard if it were possible? And then shift out of that timeline to try to get back to winning? I don't know. I really don't know. Depends on where their mindset is in Brooklyn. But the point is, that Ben Simmons contract is something that a lot of teams need. The Chicago Bulls need that contract. They be willing to take on the Zach LaVine. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of teams that need $40 million coming off their books right now, and most of them have win-now pieces to exchange. So that's really what that looks like. Maybe Brooklyn just wants to keep that Ben Simmons contract and let that $40 million come off their books like that. But who are they signing? You know what I mean? With that $40 million, could you sign something better than what you get in trade right now? For some of these teams that want to offload a Joel Embiid, want to offload a Dame Lillard, is what you're signing with that $40 million going to be better than those names in your mind? Maybe. For me personally, if I'm in their situation, I value youth. So you ain't going to be able to talk me into doing that. But like I said, I'm not me in this situation. I'm Joe Tsai, and he just didn't want picks just 2 years ago. He didn't want picks for Kevin Durant. So I don't know, man. I don't know. And when I look at the idea that they made the trade for Bridges, I don't know if he was just enticed by the idea of getting picks more so than New York was just willing to throw so much value into an exchange for Mikal Bridges so that they could complete their Villanova team that they ultimately gave up on before they even started the damn season. By moving whatever the dude's name is to the Minnesota Timberwolves with Julius Randle. So yeah, man, it's a lot there to look at, and I just don't know what side of the fence Brooklyn is really on. Are they ready to turn the corner and tank and give themselves a chance to be pick rich? Or are they one of these teams that is just waiting for the right opportunity to trade everything for another star again? I don't know. But the stars that they could potentially want may actually be available to them, if that's what their mind is on. Joel Embiid, Dame Lillard, they may actually be able to get one of these dudes, or both of them even, in some weird way. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know if any of that's actually possible. I would need a cap expert and somebody to actually tell me if any of this is real. I'm preliminarily speaking and thinking out of turn, but these are things I would try to do if I were in these teams' shoes. You know, Brandon Ingram could move to any of these places at any minute. So that's a real thing. Brandon Ingram is probably the best return for all these teams because he's young enough and doesn't affect winning enough to affect my tank. But I can bring him on, pay him his contract, bring in my tanking piece that I get from this draft this year. Harper, Bailey, Flag, Brandon Ingram, Bailey, Flag, whoever that is, whoever would be. Nice little two-man tandem. Whatever else I have on my team, which every team has something at this point, some young player that you'd have as your third guy. All teams have somebody. And suddenly you got a nice little making efficient, cost-efficient young squad. You know what I mean? Brandon Ingram does not make it so that you must win right now because of his presence. That's why I think he's one of the most attractive salary matches for any of these teams. Chicago, Brooklyn, the Bucks, any of them. Philadelphia, they should all probably want Brandon Ingram. All of them. All of them. The question is, do they want to pay him his contract any more than New Orleans does? And I don't have an answer on that. I don't know. But I can tell you one thing: Brandon Ingram gives me that sweet medium that I just described. If I want to win now with him, I can win now with him. If I want to tank with him, he's not going to stop that from happening. Works. So that's what comes to mind there. Zion Williamson, kind of the same thing, to be honest with you, but just don't trust him to stay healthy. And the demand for you to win with Zion is a bit more just because of the name. He's probably going to win more games if he's healthy, so he kind of kills your tank. Not the greatest situation. Another guy that I think could be potentially decent to have if you're like a Brooklyn Nets or Milwaukee Bucks, or it's John Collins in Utah. He's a pretty good scorer. Having a pretty good season. If you need 30 points at your power forward position and some athleticism, catch a lob, hit a corner shot, he's not the worst guy to pick up right now. He ain't the worst guy. A bit underrated at this point. Kind of saturated on a Utah team full of players that play his position and a tanking squad that wants to lose, but he's getting his numbers. And a lot of teams don't know him because he played in Atlanta, he played in Utah. So it's like two places that nobody ever really paid any attention to. But John Collins has always been capable of putting up 30 points when he's healthy. Always. And today is no exception. He can still do that. He's very relevant in fantasy basketball right now. And kind of like Cam Johnson, I think he's having a pretty good season. So it's time to strike on that piece. I know people are interested in Walker Kessler. Also interesting. Colin Sexton, not so interesting. But I think the market, when you talk about some of the teams we've already mentioned and stuff that has to move back and forth where it needs to go, John Collins looks like a solution to me for a salary match that's desirable to get back. Now, Utah ain't going to want none of these pieces, but you find a third team, maybe some of these teams that I've mentioned already messing with each other and they're getting Utah involved. John Collins is a good place to have land in a situation. Yeah, that's definitely a name that comes to mind. So yeah, man, when I think about my Lakers, I don't want to be involved in any of this, to be honest with you. I have 2 picks to trade, and while some of these players I would love to have, their price tags are not any good. The players that we mentioned, the chances are they're probably overpaid or underperforming, and I don't care for that if I'm the Lakers, man. I really don't. Maybe it's because it's my team and I value my assets more than I would value anyone else's when considering what they should bring to themselves. But I'm just very cautious to bring myself overpaid players that are not going to give me the performance I think our team deserves. For the little 2 picks that we have to trade, I think getting pick rich puts you in a much more advantageous position to be able to engage the way that some of these other teams are. We just don't have the picks to really make those type of risk. So that's my thing. I don't want to take the risk. That some of these guys are going to be retradable if something goes wrong. So that's my thing. The talent of a Joel Embiid is always interesting, but what do I have to do? Moving picks and likely some of my best role players. Some of the players I probably don't want to move. I would not be able to get Joel Embiid without them. And then what am I doing? Slapping Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis together? LeBron James, no trade clause? Like, nah, hell no. Hell no. Like in fantasy land, it's amazing. In real life, I don't think so. I don't think so. But don't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it all the way out if the Lakers could do something like that without having to give up Anthony Davis or LeBron James. I would not rule something like that out. We're always looking for a big star. We know Joel wanted to be a Laker when he was drafted, but me personally, I don't actually think that's probably possible based on the way things are set up, and I probably am cool on Joel Embiid, to be honest with you. $194 million for that knee. I ain't paying for that. So yeah, man, Kristaps Porzingis. You know, Boston's at the top of the totem pole, so if it ain't broke, you obviously don't fix it. But they just got him back from injury. He's injury prone. I would not be opposed to moving Kristaps Porzingis if I were the Celtics, but like everything's working. They shoot the ball at a ridiculous clip. Porzingis shoots the ball, so he's a fantastic two-way guy. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I don't trust his contract. I don't trust him to stay healthy, rather. So that's me versus the reality of their situation, which is it's not pressing. They really do anything, to be honest with you. But that's always something that's on the back of my mind. Would they move Porzingis for anything that they really think is necessary? So I don't know. I don't think so. But in a nutshell, if I had Porzingis in a different situation, would I be wanting to get rid of him because I don't trust him? Yes. That's basically what I'm trying to say to you. But I actually think he's in a great spot for his piece, and I think that's probably more valuable to that championship team than protecting against him potentially going down with an injury and that contract not being any good. So, yeah, no, he's not going anywhere. So, yeah, it's a lot of stuff to look at, man. When you start talking about trade possibilities and who gets traded where and how, you just want to look for value pieces and guys that can really help your team, guys that are going to fit your timeline, guys that are going to allow you to reset your timeline and not hurt that process. All of these different things really factor into all of the different conversations that have to do with that. And for me, I just try to find deals, you know. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I'm going to try to find a deal. If the player that I'm bringing back is going to hurt my timeline, then I better be bringing in some draft equity with me. If the guy I'm bringing back is not expected to play up to the level, I'm going to need some draft equity back with me. And when you start doing stuff like that, when you start making those demands, then you make it less likely you're going to get the trade. Because in this apron era, I'm not going to want to send out my flexibility to bring back something that's not really a sure thing. And in these cases, these players are obviously not sure things. If they're overpaid, underperforming, they're everything but a damn sure thing. So it gets a little weird when trying to figure out what's realistic. Yeah, there are a lot of teams that should be interested in making trades to bring contracts to them that better fit their situation or whatever that may be. So I think that's what I have to say, man. There's always more players that come to mind that could be good trade guys. You know what's interesting to me right now is the play of James Harden. He's really playing his value up, man. He looks great in Clipperland right now. And given the fact that he's on a 2-year deal, given the fact that the Clippers could probably use a change of a lot of different things, do they really want to stay in this space where they don't have any flexibility? You're stuck to the degenerative knees of Kawhi Leonard. Smart money probably sells high on James Harden, man. Smart money probably sells high on James Harden. I'm just being honest with you. He's really playing well. To the point where he almost looks like a aged version of his old self from Houston. He's looking great. His contract doesn't even look that bad. I probably sell high, man. The Clippers need to reset their situation. They really need the flexibility. Them winning is not in their best interest, not in real life, because they can't win the West with this roster. Kawhi Leonard is probably never coming back. They're probably never going to get anything for him. If you can get something for James Harden, that might be the move. If you can swing James Harden for your reset piece, your Brandon Ingram piece, how is that a bad thing for the Clippers? Some flexibility, a piece that's ultimately, I ain't going to say Zion Williamson because they got the injury issues. I wouldn't want to bring injury issues to a team that has these issues. But if James Harden can net me twice as much as he would have been able to when I signed him, which I could argue he might be able to, could I not move James Harden for salary matches and pick or picks? At this point, it's worth shopping James Harden if you're the Clippers. You need the flexibility, man. You need it. Letting Paul George walk for nothing did not help your cause in regards to your situation. Especially with Kawhi Leonard being as he is. You're never going to be able to play his value up, not fully. His reputation is insane to somebody who plays like 30 games a season and he's going to fart around when it's time for him to be healthy in regards to the conversation around when he's willing to play and how much he's going to be willing to play. Only time you're really getting the most out of him is when it's a contract year, and it won't be for another several years. So moving on from him is always something I would do. But it seems like the Clippers are not able to or don't want to or whatever, however that goes. But James Harden has played up his value tremendously, and you being a winning team with him doing that doesn't make any sense. Waiting for him to go back down to poor James Harden just so you to turn around and say you want to trade him now because he's playing bad, why wait for that? You sell high on James Harden. I would trade him now. I would trade him while he's looking great, man. So that's how I'll leave it. I'll leave the conversation there, man. I appreciate everybody for rocking with BDF44. And I'm out.